My name is Eric Van Horn. I bought my first franchise in my 20s, and since then, I've owned 6 brands with 25 stores in 8 states. I've also helped 1,000 people find the right franchise for them. People like us who are not cut out for the 9 to 5 and like to work smarter, not harder. How do we find the right franchise, buy it, grow it, sell it, and how do we do it in a way to own the business without it owning us? Those are the questions, and I'm on a mission to give you the answers. Welcome to Franchise Secrets. All right, we are live in the Facebook group. It's going to take a little bit of time for people to join on here, but everyone, I am, let me tell you, just set this up. It was about a year ago. I was at this really franchisor group, this meeting out in Park City, and the keynote speaker was Bedros Keuilian. And I remember going up to him after that and listening to what he said. I was like, I need to know this guy. I said, hey man, will you be on my podcast? And he said, no, basically. He said, I hate Zoom. So you come out to my studio and we'll get it done. So of course I took him up on that. And I went out to his studio, and that's when we recorded a podcast on Franchise Secrets. And that's where we really got to know each other and started to really build a relationship. And since then, we've gone on to partner in business together. And I consider him a friend and someone that I just really look up to in leadership. And he's helped me out in so many ways. And we're helping franchisors out together. But Bedros, thanks for coming on here to help my tribe here of franchisees.
Yeah, my pleasure, Eric. Thanks for the invite, and thanks for the kind words, man.
I sent you a text yesterday, and one of your responses back was, hey, I see so much weak leadership in good franchise brands. And it just made me think we've all have cracks in our leadership in this group. And I don't know anybody better than you to come in here and talk about leadership. And you're not doing it from a place of the silver spoon that you were born with in your mouth. So can you set the stage for anybody that doesn't know you? And then we can go into some leadership discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So leadership is not factory installed for me. I'm the kid that came from communist Soviet Union. I was 6 years old when we came to the United States, and I didn't speak English. I didn't understand the culture. We were broke and poor when we came here, lived in Section 8 housing, government assisted housing. And I share all this with you because when you have a communist father who decides to escape and come to the United States and bring his family, his kids here, he still ran us as though we were communist children, meaning we were supposed to be seen and not heard. You can't show emotions. You can't communicate unless you're communicated to. So when you grow up and you become an entrepreneur, you kind of operate from a place of being passive aggressive. You're a poor communicator. I was indecisive. Then when you become an entrepreneur, you're like, holy cow, everything that I am is the opposite of what a great leader should be. And I'm currently 45 years old. At the age of 38, I started having these massive anxiety attacks. And it was only about 2 years after franchising Fit Body Bootcamp. And as I started to grow a team and as I started getting more franchise locations on board, I realized I can't handle this thing. I've got too many franchisees that want too many different things. They keep telling me that I'm not communicating well, that we're not on the same page. My employees hate me. It seems like now my wife hates me. My business partner hates me. Everybody seemed to have a hate on for me. And at that time, I wasn't yet convinced that it was poor leadership because here's the problem. We think that because we're the CEO and on the corporate papers, it says you're the CEO, chief executive officer. Leadership is not a title, man. It is an action. And I didn't know that at the time. And I'm like, what the hell? So it wasn't until I had this anxiety attack after anxiety attack, and I realized that as more employees were quitting and telling me that I'm just a poor leader, that I finally had to take a look in the mirror and go, well, what is leadership? Let me just figure it out. And I realized it was a combination of having a great vision, like what is it that you want and where are you going? It is the ability to communicate. It is the ability to be decisive, not to make the right decision every time. I didn't say that, but to be decisive, to make a decision every time. And then to course correct when you go. And then, of course, to be emotionally resilient. If you can do those 5 things, then you have established some sense of leadership. And so thankfully, during times like this of an economic crisis, a COVID-19 crisis, when I hear all these franchisors shutting down, stopping their membership fees for their gym, all 800 or so Fit Body Bootcamp franchises, and we pivoted to online coaching within 48 hours. It was because of the vision that I had for what we were going to do if a crisis hit, my ability to communicate, and over communicate, my ability to be decisive, make the decisions. And if they're the wrong decisions, I've made, by the way, in the last 13 days of all this happening, I've made probably 24 wrong decisions, but I've made probably hundreds of right decisions. And all those wrong decisions we course corrected. And then the ability to be emotionally strong, emotionally resilient, not reactive, has put us in a place of winning right now.
I think a lot of people think because I talk a lot about being decisive in this group, and I tell my team to be decisive, and I let them know you are going to fail, you are going to make the wrong decisions, and that's okay. And they lead up to bigger decisions and being able to make those. But I've made wrong decisions, and you've made wrong decisions in this environment. Does that do anything to your mindset as a leader? I mean, or did it ever do anything to your mindset, knowing like I just made the wrong decision? Does it take you down, or is it a crack that's exposed and you fix it?
Good question. So there was a time back in my late 30s that it would take me down. Like, oh crap, I can't believe I made the wrong decision. I'm obviously a bad business person. I'm obviously doing something wrong. That's not the case, man. You hear great generals in battle making the wrong call, where dozens or hundreds of their men die, like lose their lives. They can't come back from that. And so what ends up happening is decisiveness is something that you have to make. You know who says it the best is General Colin Powell in his book. He says, when you're ready to make a decision, he goes, I need as little as 40% of the information and I'm ready to make a decision, and as much as 70% of the information and I'm ready. Meaning, if you're waiting to get 100% of all the facts together so that you can make a definitively correct, accurate, right decision, that's never going to happen. There used to be a time that I would beat myself up. Now, when I make a bad decision or the wrong decision, I just go, okay, pivot. Like, I know no one's going to die unless I stay in that bad decision. But if I can pivot quickly, we're going to be all right.
We've talked about this before, just you and I in private conversations about franchisees coming into a franchise system. They want to be a franchisee and they can never make a decision, and they want all of the facts before they get there. I appreciate people that, and I've been talking to them recently, the people that are talking to me that still want to buy a franchise, the people that are talking to FitBody, your team over there, that want to buy and their mindset's in the right place. They know everything that's going on right now and they still want to buy. That tells me a lot, because we're in that environment of uncertainty right now and they're still ready to go. Do you love that?
Oh, dude, you know what's funny about that is I tell our team, our franchise advisory team here, like every single one of these prospects that are coming in right now, filling out an application, they're to be some of our most successful locations and quickest to success, because they are seeing that this is a bad time, but they are obviously optimistic, they're open-minded, and they see opportunity. And that's what it takes to be a great entrepreneur.
Oh, it's so true. What would you say to somebody that so I put a post out in this group earlier and I said, who is in offensive mode today, mostly offensive, and who is in defensive mode? So back 2 weeks ago, that's when I was in defensive. I saw what was coming on. There's no quarantines. NBA quit. And I thought, oh my gosh, something's about to happen. And I felt late. Like inside, I'm like, I'm late to react. And I wasn't, compared to a lot of people around me, but I was late to then versus some people. So that's when I went into reactionary mode. I put up the defenses, and all this week, part of last week and all of this week has been offensive. And I tell you what, like Kevin Harrington, he was on the podcast yesterday. He called me up, or we were talking. He said, Eric, we need to do something in franchising together. And I immediately thought of you, because there's probably something in there with you with it as well. But so, and he got an email from him. He's like, Eric, let's get together on Monday. So we have a call set up on Monday. People that are leaders, that are used to leading organizations, they are seeing deal flow. They are moving forward with stuff. I was on 2 different calls today about buying stuff and moving forward with things. So there's people in this group that are not there yet. They're still on defensive. And that's okay, because we're all learning, we're all growing. But what would you say to somebody that is still in this defensive posture?
I'm going to tell that person that defense never wins games. Look, at the end of the day, you brought up the NBA, so let's use the NBA as an example. The reason these guys get paid so much money is they have to take that tiny little ball and put it in that basket in a state of chaos. All the blocking they do, all the passing they do, all the picks that they set, all that defensive moves are not going to win the game. What wins the game is when that ball makes it into that basket. So all the other skill sets that we need to be defensive are good, but the thing that wins games is offense, getting the ball in the basket, and to be able to recognize that we are in an environment where offense is most needed right now. Ironically, it's veiled as though defense is most needed, but when in reality, more than ever, storefronts are cheaper. Landlords are willing to give you free rent for the next few months. They're willing to do the tenant improvement for you. They franchisors, us, for example, we'd say, hey, come on board. We'll give you 6 months of no franchise fee. Now we're saying we will waive franchise fees. Even franchisors are giving incentives to come on board. And so if someone doesn't recognize that opportunity and go on the offense and take it, like they are never going to have an opportunity like this again.
That is so true. And that's exactly what I see. How many of your franchisors have been around, or your franchisees have been around you? They know your mindset. They know how resilient you are. They know the 5 things about leadership. How many of those are strong? How many of those are in offensive mode right now, if you had to guess, just because
Yeah.
they've been around it?
If I had to guess, and again, I do a Facebook Live with all my franchisees 3 times a week, just so you know, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And I'm going to do one right after this, actually. And so if I were to guess, I would say about 75 to 80% are in aggressive offensive mode. But that's also because they've been around me long enough to know that I'm very intense. I lean towards offense instead of defense. And our default is set to savage. The others kind of take a more cautious role for whatever reasons. But if I can influence them at all, I do. If not, I do realize that we may end up losing some locations because of this, and I'm open to that idea as well.
So you and I are big believers in masterminds. I attend several masterminds. Were invited to be a coach, a leader at one of the masterminds that I paid a lot of money to be a part of. We saw each other in Beverly Hills a little while ago, doing some cool things together. But how important is being a part of a mastermind, or being a part of a tribe or a group of a smaller team, where the leader of the mastermind, like you or Craig or somebody like that, is really giving and pouring into them? Like, how important is that?
I think it is the most important. In fact, I'll say this: it is more important than a college degree. It is more important than the best attorneys. It is more important than anything. I'm going to assume that the person running the coaching program or mastermind is already where you want to be, and therefore can help you time collapse. That's all that happens. When you give money for a coaching program or mastermind, all you're saying is, I'm going to trade this money in exchange for less stress, less frustration, less friction, and time collapse, the results that I'm going to get. So what took you, let's say, 5 years, Bedros, should take me 2.5 years or even a year to achieve, because you're going to show me the shortcuts and help me avoid the mistakes. I'm still in masterminds, and I still run masterminds for that reason, because if I wasn't, then I would have to learn through my mistakes. Why do I want to learn through my mistakes when someone's already been there, has done that, and I just want a time collapse and get the results?
No, that is so good. And then, so what about, like, because you have franchisees of yours in a mastermind,
Mm-hmm.
like this group right here, and there's a lot of different things that people can do for masterminds. There's EO, that's a great group for people, and there's a lot of different ones out there. But what would you say to the person that says, that's what my franchisor should be providing?
Well, if they say that's what my franchisor should be providing, at some point, you would have to pay so much money to your franchisor that you would have this adversary relationship with them if you want them to provide you an extra level of high level coaching. Like a proper mastermind is meeting somewhere for 2 to 3 days, 3 times a year. Like, no franchisor is obligated or can afford to provide that for their franchisees without additional pay. So because I run masterminds, and because many of our Fit Body Bootcamp franchisees reached out to me and said, hey, we'd love to join some of your masterminds. Is there one that's specific to Fit Body owners? And I said, no, there isn't. But if I started one, would you like to be a part of it? They said, yes, we would love to be around you, the way you think, the way you operate, the people that you hang out with. We'd love to see how you lead and run your office. I bring in my franchisees for 2 days at a time into my building here. And I go, here's how my sales team operates. Here's how we do the follow-ups. Here's how my accounting team works. Here's what we do for marketing. Here's how we have leadership meetings. Like, those things are not obligatory. Those things are an addition to. And so they pay extra money to be around me and our team 3 times a year for 2 days at a time. And so anyone that thinks that the franchisor should be doing that for them, is probably someone that thinks that right now they're just going to sit and wait and let the government bail them out because, well, it passed the Senate, it passed the House. We're just waiting for Trump to sign. And then all of a sudden there's going to be a bag of money at your door. You're wrong. There is no man on a white horse that's going to gallop in and save the day. You're that person. If you don't take action by way of giving your money in exchange for knowledge, you're going to miss out. That's it.
Yeah, that's exactly. That's probably one of the best decisions that I made. In your book, Man Up, you talk about a crop duster and a fighter jet. Can you dive into that a little bit?
Absolutely. And that I don't believe there's leaders and followers. I believe there's leaders and failures. That's it. Because all of us should be leaders. Even if you have a job and you have a boss over you who's your leader, look, you should be leading yourself to good health, to a positive mindset, to great outlooks. You should be leading your family, right? Whether you're a spouse, a parent, or whatever. And so if someone thinks, well, hey, I don't have leadership responsibilities, that's false. So a fighter jet minded person is someone who is willing to go to battle against the mediocrity, the sea of mediocrity that's out there for them. Because most everybody out there is average. They're crop dusters. Now, if I ask someone, hey, do you want to be average or extraordinary? Everybody would say, well, I want to be extraordinary. Well, great. That means you want to be a fighter jet. And the way I look at it is a fighter jet, someone who's fighter jet minded would not hit the snooze button first thing in the morning. They would get up to dominate their day. They wouldn't eat some kind of high sugary coffee with a blueberry muffin that's going to spike their caloric intake, that's going to spike their insulin, that's going to make them anxious because of all this caffeine. They would take something high protein, low fat, low carbs that's going to power their mind, right? They would take care of their body. They would lead their body. They would lead their mindset. They would lead their business. They would lead their family. They would go work out at a certain time. They would eat right. They'd go to bed at a certain time. They would journal. They would read so many pages a day, do self-development. That is the fighter jet. They have higher standards of expectations for themselves and the people around them. They have control over their thoughts and the people that they surround themselves with. Like, people forget. See, the fighter jet knows that I am the CEO of my life. The crop duster goes, I got all these losers around me. What do I do? You are the CEO of your life, man. You could fire them. You could hire new people. Like, you decide. The crop duster will hit the snooze button. They hang out with average people. They gossip. They skip their workouts. They make promises, and then they break the promises. Means they begin to erode their self-confidence. Anyone that ever wants to know, how do I build my self-confidence, self-esteem, and self-image, those three things, every promise that you make to yourself and break it, you are eroding confidence, self-esteem, and self-image. For example, the promise might be, I'm going to go work out today at 9 a.m. And then if you don't, consciously, you're like, oh, well, I was busy. You justify it by something. I was busy. Subconsciously, your brain knows that you're a liar, you're a hypocrite, you're an imposter, you cannot be trusted, you will lose credibility with yourself. So now when it's time to, let's go back to leadership, to make that big decision, to lead your business or your company or your store, you're going to have a hard time doing it because your subconscious mind knows that you're not a credible person. And so if you think that you could break little promises to yourself, like, oh, it's just a workout. Oh, it's just one clean meal. Oh, I told Eric I'd be on the Zoom at this time, but I can just text him. I'm going to be 10 minutes later. Those are micro promises that I'm breaking. If I asked you, hey, do you want to be a loser or a winner? You would never choose loser. Yet if I ask people, did you hit the snooze button today? 90% of the people who I'm going to ask are going to say yes, which is really saying, yes, I'm a loser.
So the crop duster is a loser. The fighter jet's a winner. And I love all that. Like, so I want to go into emotional resiliency, kind of that mentally strong state of mind, because I did that 75 hard challenge, as you know, and it really changed the way I think. And I there's people that woke up in this chaos of Corona and they were a crop duster and they're like, and they just weren't made for that. And there are people that we thought were made for this time. We thought they were fighter jets because on Instagram, it sure looked like it. Yes. Everything on Facebook, it sure showed that they were, but now they're waking up and everything's on credit. It wasn't real. So that stuff's being exposed, and the real fighter jets, like they are taking ground right now, aren't they?
They absolutely are. You know what? Every person right now, all the filters are being removed, if you will. This coronavirus is removing all the filters from social media and everything, because all the people that had the Lamborghinis or the jets or whatever, or listen, when it's a summertime type of season, in other words, economy is great, everything is fine, there's no risk or uncertainty, anyone can beat their chest and talk about leadership. Like, you can go to Tony Robbins' Instagram account or go to Jocko Willink's YouTube channel and get some nuggets and then put a cool picture of yourself like this next to someone's rented Lamborghini and then put the 7 points of leadership there and talk about how you're leading yourself and your company. But now when the poop hit the fan, that person is firing people. They're not able to hold the line. They weren't ever able to pivot quickly. And you can see the emotional down reacting instead of strategically responding to the situation. Because I'll be honest with you, as soon as this thing happened, I go, all right, first thing we need to do is preserve capital. Second thing we need to do is figure out how to pivot. So we started preserving capital. And one of the things that ran through my mind was, who are the non-essentials? I'm being completely honest here. Who are the non-essentials in my office that I could either move to part-time or lay off? And then I'm like, all right, dude, what would you tell a coaching client? Because that might have been emotionally reactive. What would you tell a coaching client? What's going to happen if your team, you fire them, number one, let's say you laid them off, and then only a month later or 2 months later, the economy turns back around. Now you need to bring them back. How much loyalty do they have towards you? Not much. Are they even going to be able to come back, or are you hiring someone else who is unqualified and you don't know how capable they are? Versus, what if I can keep my team fully employed for the next 30, 60 days, no matter what? They're going to be so loyal, so grateful, so thankful, so committed to my brand and my franchise. They will work harder today or tomorrow than they ever did in the past. And that's what I chose to do. But my emotional reaction was lay off and cut payroll. Strategically responding is, no, I can get loyalty in the long run if I just hold the line.
Gosh, that is so good, because we all react. We all have these emotions, no matter how strong we are, what our experience is. And if we don't take a second to think at it from a different angle, and you being a coach, and we have other people around us that can speak into our lives. And I look at my business I look at it from the inside, because I'm in the middle of it. And then when I'm getting ready to make big decisions, I'd zoom out like I'm the board of directors. What would I advise this business to do? And it's not always the same answer. So
Right.
how long did that take you to kind of come up with that shift?
4 days on the dot, 4 days on. I mean, we even talked, dude, at our L10 meeting, we even made the list of people that would go on part-time, the list of people that we would lay off. And then even if we had to do a pay cut, what percentage pay cut would happen to the remaining people. So we even made the list of names, like the names were on paper, but I go, I just need more time to sleep on this. Like, so where decisiveness is concerned, sometimes it's okay to take a step back, sleep on it, think on it, meditate on it, pray on it, whatever your thing is. And then as your emotions calm down, as the hysteria, okay, all right, okay, no one's dying, everything's cool around me, check. Maybe we don't have to fire everyone. Maybe what we can do is say, hey, that option is on the table. Well, we're going to keep you for now, but this is what you guys have to do to row in the same direction during this crazy time. And that gave them certainty and confidence. And my phone, by the way, blew up with like thank yous and gratitude when we announced that to our team, because they knew that something might come down the pipeline because everyone else is announcing unemployment left and right. So it took 4 days, and like, this is what we're going to do. And that's not to say if this thing goes on for 6 months or 12 months that won't happen. But let me tell you, I'm in a position right now where my team loves me and I love them, and I want to show it to them and not just be a fair weather friend.
You bought an option of loyalty. You went in for 1 to 2 months to pay them, and then if you get to keep them, I think this thing will be kind of over by then, and we'll be shifting in different directions, sooner than later. But you bought loyalty. It is a cheap way to buy loyalty. That's incredible.
Absolutely.
Who are you getting advice from? Who are you calling as a friend, and who are you listening to right now?
Yeah, good question. So Craig Ballantyne, my business partner, is one person I get advice from. Matt Smith, his business partner, is another person. Ed Milet, actually, we were just texting back and forth, just helping each other out 3 days ago. Joe Polish is another person that I reach out to. Dean Graziosi is always someone you are always on my speed dial, where that's where our franchises are concerned. And you have to have that network. And I think it was Napoleon Hill in his book, Think and Grow Rich. He says you have to have a mastermind of people that you could go, all right, what would Henry Ford do? What would Abraham Lincoln do with the same problem? Like if you read enough biographies about Abraham Lincoln or Henry Ford, you would start understanding their thought patterns and how they think and process during a problem. And so while they're dead, you could still go, what would Henry Ford do? Aha, he'd probably do X, Y, and Z, and then you can go execute. Well, we have the modern day Abraham Lincolns and Henry Fords alive. and you have access to them by way of either friendship or money. And so, dude, go get that. And, all those relationships that I mentioned, by the way, started off with money. Like money, and then over time turned into a friendship or a business partnership. And today I get to reach out to them. But make no mistake about it, I pay Cameron Harold. He was the COO for 1-800-GOT-JUNK. We still pay Cameron Harold money to coach us because he helped scale 1-800-GOT-JUNK. And he is literally working with my COO and his COO alliance. And we pay him $60,000 a year. Like, I love coaching. Why wouldn't I just have Cameron coach Bryce, my COO, instead of like trying to get him to figure it out?
Oh man, that's probably that's the biggest thing that's just changed my life is paying. I've like you, I've paid to get into these masterminds, and then friendships develop out of that. Now I still pay people, and I have my Rolodex is completely different today than it was 3 years ago. One last little point, and then I know that you need to go to take care of your franchisees. A lot of people think if I want to get mentored by somebody, I want it to be Bill Gates. They don't need Bill Gates, do they?
No, you don't need Bill Gates. Bill Gates is not someone, we all want to get to Gates and Warren Buffett level of, being a billionaire. I get it. But right now, who's the person maybe in your industry or close to your industry that is at the next rung on the ladder that you want to be at? That's the person you need help from, because Bill Gates is at the top of the staircase. He may not know exactly how I need to take the steps to get to the top in my industry. He may know it with Microsoft or in that industry. And so you're going to find the expert in your industry who's ahead of you, and then pay money to get there quickly.
I love it, man. I'll let you go. I know you got franchisees to take care of. You're running the great franchise of Fit Body. And thank you for coming on here, helping out the franchise tribe. And I'll be in touch, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it, Eric. Take care, guys.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Franchise Secrets Podcast. Whether you're watching or listening, please make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and to whatever channel you're listening on. If you want my help with anything from buying a franchise to franchising your business, please visit franchisesecrets.com.